Knowing what you want to do when you graduate is challenging. You spend all this time studying hard, getting good grades, and when you finally reach the end, you get this mixture of emotions. As someone looking to go into food safety, there are so many options out there, and that can be scary. But don't worry, with a little guidance and self-reflection, it is possible to find a job that you love.
So I was always juggling between, do I want to go in the lab side? Do I want to work in QA, QC?
Meet Tanya, co-founder and director of Assured Food Safety Consulting. Tanya has a master's degree in food science and is a proud Centennial College Biotechnology alumni. She has worked in food safety within the government and the food industry. So on this episode of the Food Grads podcast, you will learn how Tanya found a career that she loves in food safety consulting, essential skills for Tanya's profession,
Because they have to understand why food safety is important, why you are doing this.
how to practice your communication skills,
And they have these skills, but they're always, I think, scared to bring it out in the world. They think that people are going to judge them.
why Tanya started providing mentorship for students.
So there was the moment when I decided, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do small by small, taking small steps in this business and help as many people as I can.
How volunteering can help you network, and so much more. Thank you to the Canadian Food Innovation Network for sponsoring this podcast. If you're interested in learning more about a career in food innovation, then check out the description below to learn more about CFIN's Food Innovator Career Hub and how you can connect with Canada's fastest growing food tech sector companies. I hope that you enjoy this conversation. Let's get into it.
Thank you, Veronica, for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. I have been looking for so many different platforms that I can go and talk about, and we can guide and bring more awareness about food safety. I think it is the most important thing. And what your platform is doing is closing the gap. It's amazing. I just love that concept. And that's why I wanted to reach out and talk about it.
Well, thank you so much. It's where it takes a village, as Nicole always says, and multiple people talking about their journeys. And I love hearing how different people go about it because there's so many different paths. I know there is, once you get into the field, there's the certifications you have to go. So it gets a little more precise, but getting in there, it's a lot of people doing cool ways of doing it. So with that being said, I think that you can introduce yourself a little better than I can. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and we'll get to know you more.
So, hi everyone, I'm Tanya, and I am a co founder of Assured Food Safety Consulting Incorporation. And I want to share about my journey from when I landed in Canada in 2016. So, I have done masters in biotech from back home from India. And then when I moved here, I did my Centennial diploma in advanced biotech. And in 2018, I got my work visa. I started working as a quality assurance technician in a ready to eat poultry plant. And then within 9 months, I was promoted to HACCP coordinator position. I got my HACCP certificate and they promoted me to HACCP coordinator position. I worked a year as a HACCP coordinator. Then I wanted to explore the CFI side and how the government, because I'm like, I'm young, I can take risk, I can do experiment and see what I actually like, what I actually want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to work in private? It's challenging, but do I want to work here or do I want to work with CFI? So, luckily, CFI was hiring at that time, and I put myself in interview. It took me 3 to 4 months for the whole process. I
Wow.
got CFI. I worked as an inspector. I was assigned in Maple Lodge, Brampton. It's one of the biggest poultry plants in Ontario. So I
Mhm.
was grateful that I worked there. I met so many different people, inspectors who have been working there from 25 years. It was amazing experience. Then after some time, it was something that was not clicking because I'm always more of a like I wanted more challenges to work with, and CFA is good and the experience was great, but I wanted to do something else and explore different categories, different products as well. So I decided to move to private, and I started applying for different jobs in BC, and I finally got QA manager position, and then I moved here. Started working in vegan, then I moved to seafood industry, and then when I was working in seafood as a QA manager, I started doing freelancing, and then slowly I converted my freelancing. Basically, I was making HACCP plan for food businesses as a freelancer, and I converted my freelancing to my full time food business to entrepreneurship, that is assured food safety. So this is my journey. It's short. I have worked with different people, different amazing people, amazing companies, but I think I learned a lot in those times.
Wow, that's amazing. It's really cool that you've been able to see the private aspects, the government aspects, seeing both sides, and then as well going into a more entrepreneurial side with the starting your own business. How did you become aware that consulting was even a thing in this side of the field?
So what happened, Veronica? I used to go on a lot of networking events here in
Mhm.
BC. There are a lot of small and medium-sized food businesses are there, and I used to go on those food networking events. And I met on one entrepreneur who was selling vegan candy. Who was manufacturing outside of country, selling it in Canada and USA. So when I met her, she shared her experience with different consultants. So she didn't need full-time QA because it was a
Oh.
small business. So she wanted her product to get HACCP certified as well as vegan certified. So that was her requirement. She met different consultants, she worked with them, and she said, I'm paying a lot of money to big companies, but they are not flexible. When I have a shipment, they are not able to release it on the border because it's of the timing. And because they're big companies, they don't have people
Mhm.
working one on one all the time, right? So they have their own barriers. She has her own experiences and she has her own thing that where she need QA and other people to release her product and make sure it's in Canada and it's in USA. So at that time I asked her, I'm like, if you're comfortable, if I can do, like, I'm already working full time, if you need someone part time I can work for you. And she said okay. So we did a virtual interview,
Mhm.
and then she hired me. I started making, I got her HACCP certified, then vegan certified. And that's how I started my freelancing journey. And that's how it clicked me that she's not the only one. When I was going on other networking events, I found so many people were there who cannot afford to hire full-time QA, but they still need someone who can do HACCP plan and food safety plans for them and get them HACCP certified so that they can go on big retail stores, which is the requirement. If they want to grow and grow their business, they need HACCP certification, right?
Mhm.
So this is where I was helping, and it inspired me. Okay, that these people need help, then this is, I think I should definitely do, and that's how slowly posting on LinkedIn, reach out to more people, and started doing that. And another thing was when I was a student, there was not much of a guidance to what to do with my career. I'll be very honest with you. I have been met so many different people, even in the college, but there was nobody who could tell me, okay, these are the certifications you definitely need, or your industry will help you later on, just apply for this position. So I was always juggling between, do I want to go in the lab side, do I want to work in QA QC department, or do I want to work in CFI? And at that time I didn't even know what is CFI. For me it was like, okay, I'm an immigrant, why would the government inspect
Yeah.
hire me, right? So I had this notion, and I was not clear what are the requirements, that you don't need to have your permanent residency. Your work permit is just sufficient, and your qualification is just sufficient to enter at a like at an entry level. You can do that. That's sufficient. I always had this thing in my mind that, okay, no, I need, I don't know, 10 years of experience
Yeah.
probably to CFI, right? So there were many things which I struggled with, and but when I entered into the industry, I'm grateful. I met amazing people who helped me, but before that it was really hard. So those students who I know that needed help somewhere, because if I needed help, there are definitely more people who needed help. And then I had my friends, I was talking with them too. So there was the moment when I decided, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do small by small, taking small steps in this business and help as many people as I can.
Wow. That's amazing. You do point out a really good a point is that with a lot of schooling, you learn the technical aspects that you need to be good at your job, but then you realize once you graduate, I don't actually there's a very few select people that know exactly what they want to do when they graduate. They have that dream goal. I'm going to go to this job, I'm going to work for this company or this area, but for many people it's, especially when you're young and you're first going into school, you just know the general direction, and you're like, I don't know what I can do with this. I don't know how this is applicable, and it's good that you're able to, like, you have the self-reflection now to say that I didn't know. I want to be able to share that. So one of the things that stood out that for me, and I just wanted to maybe help the audience know a little bit more, is that you had mentioned that you help with HACCP, like helping a company get their HACCP certification. Maybe you could just walk us through a little bit about how that works as someone who's not, working at the company or helping assisting. Do they just submit a documentation to the government? Like, how does that little process work?
So what happens is normally when company reach out to us that they need a HACCP certification for their company, firstly we give them 1 hour free introductory call. We ask them about their product, their process, their facility, and usually I visit facility because if I don't see, I can't tell how much work they need to do before they get HACCP certified.
Mm-hmm.
So I go there, I make a whole report for them that these are the things that you require to get HACCP certified, looking at their product, looking at their production process, facility, because a lot of times there are many gaps in the facility itself that they need to get fixed. Then a food safety program, the current one they have, because almost all of the companies have a basic food safety program because otherwise they can't start. It's a local,
Oh,
provincial
okay.
requirements, right? So they need to have a very, very basic food safety plan, especially with traceability and approved supplier and water testing to make sure that the product is safe and they're selling within the province and
Okay.
not outside the province. So provincial government does that for them. And then I reach out and I ask them and I give them the quote and then we sign the agreement and that's how we start doing working for HACCP. And then what happens is I reach out to different third party auditors, help them to get fix their audit, and then we review their HACCP plan and I make the changes in the HACCP plan, provide their employees a proper training, make the documentation that they need for HACCP certification. They need any environmental program like swabbing, product testing, water monitoring, air swabbing, light, like everything. Traceability is something that a lot of companies struggle with because they're small businesses. They don't know how they can, why it's important. First of all,
Right.
they don't know how why it is important. And
Yeah.
once they know, they're like, okay, there is so much of documentation. How are we going to do it? So to streamline that process is also a very, very important part in the HACCP audit. And then once everything is done, we call the auditor, we get the audit done, and the process of audit is basically reviewing all of the HACCP plan, food safety program, SOPs. They view the facility as well and see if there are any gaps or pest control or any issues with the facility and or with the critical control points that are there in the facility. And after that, yeah, that's pretty much it. If there are any non-compliances, we fix it and we get our certificate.
You say that's pretty much it, but
So
I
many
that is so
things.
much. And I can understand for a new business owner who, they're just getting into this, they would have no clue that there's just this requirements. Like they might come in from the perspective of like a kitchen, general food safety. They know how to make food generally safe, but then coming in, it's like, oh, traceability is now a thing. Oh, now I need to worry about this. Now I need to worry about this. And they just might not be aware of it. So I can understand as well when they're new, they don't have a lot of resources or to be able to have that QA tech all the time on site.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, suppliers, they don't know why they need to have approved suppliers. They're like, oh, they're selling them. They're selling why they can't, why I can't buy from them. Government must be monitoring them as well. Like that is the answer I
Yeah.
get all the time with entrepreneurs. They're like, oh, there are government looking at their product too. So why should I worry? They must be regulated. So I'm like, no, we have to follow these process, the procedures for approved supplier, and then only you can use it. Especially if you're importing something right outside of
Mm-hmm.
Canada. So that's another struggle and extra bit of step two.
Mm-hmm. So in school, you were never made aware that consulting was even an option, I'm guessing.
No, no, never. It was never. But I was given either lab or quality assurance, and I hated labs. I can't do lab. Like lab is not my thing. It's good, of course, we need it. Everybody, we need labs and food safety. It's very important part. But as a person, if I have to work in the lab, it's not something for me. So consulting is something I slowly figured it out on my way.
Mm-hmm.
It was not in the part of my career.
Yeah, lab work. And I think that's also like a general thing when you think of sciences is that it all has to be, that's at least with my program, that when people think of science, it's in the lab. I mean, I'm in the lab all the time, but there's so much more to taking that knowledge and, applying it in the real world. And just because knowing how a lab technique works can be good enough knowledge to help you take it to something else or apply it somewhere. It's really good to know that there's different options and such. Did you, okay, so one of the things I was also wondering, so we are talking about lab skills in itself is its own skill because it's a technical skill, but when it comes to consulting, did you find that you learned any of those skills in school that were maybe not as technical that helped? Or, okay, my question is, what skills do you currently use in your role that are really useful for you?
Number one thing that's very important is attention to detail. You have, because you're verifying someone's documentation, you're responsible to review the records, critical control points, you're responsible to identify the hazards, like all those technical things. They're so important. They're technical, but they still need something that is attention to detail. So if you're not attentive while reviewing the paperwork, reviewing the HACCP plan, or maybe reviewing the regulations and making sure you implement those on your food safety program, then it's a problem. So you have to make sure. This was actually when I was in Centennial, we used to do a lot of assignments, right?
Yeah.
And attention to detail was something that was always a part of it, because sometimes you're reading a question, you just understood half of it, and half of it you just forget about it and you only answer what you understood, right? So it's very, very important to look at the whole picture and then answer it accordingly. And to basically, you have to make sure the client is satisfied with the food safety program once they are done with the audit. So attention to detail was very important, is very important. Number two is something that I would say is very, very important, is communication skills. This is something you have to make sure when you're working as a QA, or even you're working in the lab, no matter if you're working in the food safety, if you're not communicating with your employees, with management properly, because they have to understand why food safety is important, why you are doing this.
Right.
They don't have that background, right? For them, it's another job. It's just there, they have to do it. If they have to mix the ingredients, they have to. But why in that concentration? Why they're pH testing it, why they're monitoring the temperature. They have to understand those part as well. So for that, communication skills is very, very important to make sure that you actually are able to explain it in a manner that people who are not from food safety background understands the importance of it.
Those sound really, for sure, the attention for detail and communication is a skill that can take you in so many different ways. Being able to articulate, as an entrepreneur, I can see articulating the value about why it's so important what you do or why you're doing it to the business. Because they might say, well, why? I don't need all those services. I just need just the I don't know, the traceability aspect. But being able to communicate that, I can see that being important as well.
And it comes with a lot of cost. And so if you are asking someone to buy a traceability software, or you have to test your product, I don't know, like once a month, right?
Right.
If it's a risk, you have to take these swabs. They have never done that. So you're asking them to put more money in their production process, in their facility, and to convince someone to put more money when they're also giving you money, and they have to put a lot of money in their company. It's a big challenge, especially for size and medium sized food businesses. So the start is very difficult, but once they understand, once you communicate in the way that, okay, this is why it's important. But sometimes I have to say, you have to do it, you have no choice. So we have to do it no matter what. There are some people who are very stubborn about things, that no, I don't think so, I will talk with the auditor. I'm like, okay, you can try, but maybe do it before the audit, because once we are in the audit, we can't make changes. At that time, it's done, right? So when it comes to cost, it's really hard to talk with people, because they definitely have to put a lot of money. But once they understand the why we are doing it, what we are doing, why we are doing it, I think that solves a bigger problem.
And it also is, you also have to convey how it's also saving you money in a weird way, because there's costs associated. Well, if there's a recall, well, now you're losing all your product off the shelf, or it has to be brought back, or if an incident happens. So you are saving money by spending money. And I bet that's even still hard to convey.
It is, yeah.
Did you find with these two skills that you have that they were something that you kind of always had, or there's something, or were they ones that you had to build upon?
So I think number one, the one thing that I built it slowly when I started working at my first job. It was high risk product, ready to eat poultry plant. And how we do the performance reviews in the
Yep.
company.
Yep.
So I remember my second perform. First was okay when I was a quality assurance technician, but when I was switched to HACCP coordinator position, I had this performance review with the QA director, and she deducted I think point 0.5, and I'm very competitive. So I'm by point 0.5, I have to know. So she said that you don't make decision by yourself. You always come to me, or you always go to someone. You give them solutions, but at the end you want someone else to tell you that this is safe to do it, so just do it.
Mhm.
So decision making was something, and why it's important is something I learned within the process. It was not something when I was in school I learned it, because school is more about
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
theory, right? But when you're actually working in the company, it's practical, and you are meeting different people, different backgrounds, with different jobs they're doing. So you have, when you work with them, at that point, okay, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to figure out this thing. So that's how, like, you learn it slowly, and then it takes you time to understand that why we have to do this. And so decision making was one thing that took me a lot of time to build in myself. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take small steps, but I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to make the decisions by myself. It was not easy, definitely, but if I compare the Tanya who was in 2018 to now what is in 2024, I think I've definitely started making a lot of food safety decisions by myself rather than asking people, okay, should I do this? Should I not do this?
Well, thank you for sharing that. As someone who has worked a bit in food safety, I understand I I think the fear also comes as well with the decision making is because it's so high stakes. It is food safety at the end of the day. I mean, obviously people get a lot of stress doing communication roles or marketing or social media, but you feel if you make the wrong decision, you're like, oh no, somebody's going to die. And I don't want to be the one who makes the wrong decision in this thing. And I know that companies have a lot of fail safes, that it's not just one, but there's always that little lingering thing. If I made the wrong decision this day and it didn't get caught, someone's going to die.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. It's always there. Even when I was in CFI, and at that time your supervisor is not there, and you have to make some decision right there on the floor. And then you feel, okay, should I do this? Should I ask someone? But you are there. They fail the CCP. You can't do anything. You have to make the decision. That's why you are trained, right? But at somewhere back of head, you're always thinking, oh, I hope I'm making the right decision. Even though you are trained for that, you know
Mm-hmm.
the regulations, this is what you're supposed to do, but still, okay, I hope I'm doing right. I'm not making any wrong decision. The product is safe, the company is safe, nobody's going to die.
Yeah.
This business, even this job, it comes with a lot of risks. So it's something I think you learn with time and not beforehand. And the communication skills that we were talking about, this is what I learned in my job as well, as to start, because how we have to train the employees on the floor on
Right.
different, if we're doing why hand washing is important, why you have to wash your boots, why you have to wear PPE, why you can't just smoke right outside the facility, and you have to make sure the cigar is in the proper
Mm-hmm.
of in the bin. Like, there's so many things why sanitation is important. So all of those things, the communication part, it's hard. Sometimes there is a language barrier, which is
Mm-hmm.
really, really important to talk about, because different people from different backgrounds. So it's not the same language that you can use with them. So it's really hard to communicate that. Second is, there are people who are like, why, as I said before, why we need to do this. Even there are, like, there someone who are employees handling the product directly. It's really, really important for us, for them to understand that why they are doing this, why they have to make sure they wash their hands every time they touch the product. They can't pick up something from the
Yeah.
floor and put it on the line. So all those things require communication skills, and I think that is what I started learning in my first job, and then I slowly learned more, and then right now I'm implementing that in my business.
Do you think that there's a way for students to practice communication of this type of level while they're in school? Because I know that you will ultimately learn it on your job, but it would be very beneficial to know it a little bit prior. Do you have any recommendations about maybe what someone could do?
So, if you want to mention about communication skills in school, I think when I was in Centennial, we used to do a lot of webinars, right? But the
Mhm.
webinars, like they're in a group, you have 5, 10 people. So you're 5, 6 people, and you only get to speak, I think, one slide. So I
Mhm.
think there should be more webinars where professors, or they can even call people from industry from outside, give them the situational based questions and ask what people actually think about it, and let them talk like what they would do, not just written. I prefer more of a learning communication than more of a writing. Of course, writing is something that everybody's doing, but now you can use chat GPT, AI. There are so many platforms people are using nowadays, right? Including me. I use sometimes too for my content. I'm not lying. But speaking is something that is very, very important when it about comes to communication skills. And I think if we can do more webinars with professors, within the students, and give them situational based ask them situational based questions, okay, what they would do if they will put in a situation like this, that is going to help a lot for them to improve their communication skills.
Mm. That's a really good point because when you're out in the field, you're not going to have your text-based generator. You're not going to be you're out on your own. You have to be able to communicate. And being on the hot seat kind of in school would be a good opportunity to just probe more questions. And you don't have many opportunities to do that technical speak. So school is supposed to be like a safe environment, I would hope. So that is a good point. Yeah. Do you think that there's any opportunities though if a student, because I know this is something that hopefully moving forward a school would do, but in the case that a student doesn't have that opportunity, do you have any recommendations they should do?
If they want to improve their communication, if they're not, then I would suggest is there are a lot of podcast that recommend listen that have
Okay.
suggested how to improve your listening skills, and there are a lot of online, I think, softwares too that you can use to basically how you can improve your communication skill. You can stand in front of the mirror, you can talk, you can pick a topic on food safety and talk about it. There are a lot of people who write good blogs on food safety, and they have these skills, but they're always, I think, scared to bring it out in the world. They think that people are going to judge them. So I think if there are a lot of people who are good in writing food safety content, then they can definitely talk about it too. So if it's me, I had that issue too. What I used to do when I was in when I started my first
Mhm.
job in the college, but I think this is something we can start earlier. You can talk in front of the mirror. You can open your own camera and start recording yourself. Like when I was in school, I didn't do it, but when I slowly started working in the industry, and I'm like, I used to fumble a lot. English is not my first language,
Wow.
and I would fumble on a lot of words, and I'd be like, okay, is this the right word? Is this the right grammar am I using? Because there are 10 people who are like CEOs, management, corporate sitting there. Am I speaking in right English? That is always there in your head because English is not your first language. And there are a lot of people, there are a lot of immigrants in Canada right now, right? So if you can just open your front camera in your home, just do it. There is nobody who is watching you, and just start talking about yourself, what you feel, what is food safety for you, or even just when you're talking with your family, just like talk in more and maybe in English, so that you can understand why, because English is the main language that we use here, right? That's the
Right.
only language we communicate with. So I think if you people start talking more when they're by themselves, or even when they're sitting with their family where they feel safe and comfortable, that will bring a lot of confidence when they're speaking in front of people, and it can definitely help in improving their communication skills.
I like that. I forget as someone who's fortunate to be English is my first language. It's not something I think about as much. I mean, I do fumble a lot, especially when you go into the technical realm. When you talk the food safety, it's not something that is everyday conversation. So you don't really get to flex that that you don't really get to flex that muscle of speaking. I mean, I fumble even with my own research because I'll read the words and then I'll realize, oh, that's not actually how you say it because it's not a terminology that I use in fat crystallization research, or if there's an author or something, I just don't get the practice. So I realize having conversations with my supervisor also really helps. And he makes sure that we say the words correctly. I'll say that.
No, it is very important. I think not a lot of people talk about it, but there are many students who just struggle with because they know that it's not their first language, and they when they will talk about it, when they will talk about anything, they will speak wrong and people will judge them. So even I used to feel that when I started my career, I won't lie about it. When I had to give presentation in my English class, I think in Centennial College, I was scared. I'm like, okay, I'm going to speak maybe some wrong words and people are going to laugh at me.
Mhm.
But no, I don't think I don't care anymore. I think I learned a lot and now I feel like you should have confidence in yourself and there is always a room to grow. So if
Yeah,
you're doing better than what you were doing last year or last month or even yesterday, so it's definitely, it means you improved, right?
I like that
This is
perspective.
how I've
And
started, this is how I've started seeing it now, rather than just crying about it. Why did I say something like that in my that recording or in my that content that I posted on social media. So
yeah, I like that. There's a lot of opportunity to grow. And as long as you learn from your mistakes and acknowledge them and you don't just get so caught in it. Because as you said earlier, that was maybe 2018 version of me, but 2024 version has learned from those mistakes and you can really change and be a better person. And one of the things I also wanted to talk about today that you have mentioned on social media is that you believe that mentorship is really important in a lot of individuals' journey. And mentorship has been something that you've actually helped other students do. You've done so much amazing work about that. So, why don't you tell us a little bit more about why you started doing the mentorship, how you've helped students, and we'll do that as a jumping off point.
So, Veronica, what happened was, as I mentioned earlier, that when I was a student, I was not, there was not much of the guidance for me. On my mind, the only option was I can work in the labs, and
Mhm.
I'm scared of labs. Like it's the work is good, but it is not something for me. So I'm like, okay, what else I can do? Is there nothing else? So there was not enough guidance. But when I entered into industry, I met amazing people. So when I was at my first job, Karen Hanna. I love her so much. She was my QA director, and she was the only person who helped me a lot in growing as a QA tech role. There is a small story behind it. So when I got my first job as a QA technician, on the third day, I was told that maybe this job is not for me because I was put into a freezer. There was a three-story freezer
Yep.
and I had to do a pre-operational inspection inside that freezer. It was 4 a.m. I used to live in Scarborough. I took a bus and train 2:30 a.m. in the morning, reached 4 o'clock Oakville. I didn't have a car at that time.
Oh my God.
Uh, I was half asleep, but that's okay. That's part of the job. And I reached there and I was put in with training with another QA technician who was doing pre-operational inspection inside the freezer. I was in there for 3 hours. It took me, and I was slow when I started working. Like I'd be like, because I think traveling was the one reason, or maybe I didn't know how the industry works. They need fast-paced people. I didn't know that. So I was just doing things at my own time, taking my time to learn, to understand why CCPs are important. I gave few, they took my quiz test too on their HACCP program, and I failed on that, on the first quiz. And then the RQA manager, he called me. He's like, maybe Tanya, this job is not for you. So in the past 3 days, I have got received this feedback about you that she's slow, she's not quick in learning things. Maybe you can think about it. We are okay if you don't want to work here.
Oh
It's
my
up to
gosh.
decision. This is, I'm very honest. I've posted my whole story on LinkedIn about this too. So this happened, and I don't know, it just clicked me. I got scared, and I'm like, and when traveling back, I was traveling back on that day to Scarborough in a train. I'm like, this is not why I came here. I did my master's in India. Where does that all the confidence go? Like, what is happening? I have to be quick. I have to do this. Then I called few of my friends and I asked them, this is what happened. You guys are already working in industry from 3 months, 4 months. So what would you suggest for me? So they basically said, you have to be fast. You just do, like be on your floor, be on your feet, be on the floor most of the time. Don't sit in front of your desk. And that's how you're going to learn once you will see it. When somebody is providing you training, you understand the basics. But once you go on the floor, you actually see how it works, only then it is in your brain. So
Mhm.
that's how I started doing it. So there was a little mentorship that my friends did for me. Then when I started working in, and I grew after that in that particular company, that same company, same people, they asked me that you have worked so much in 9 months. We want you to get you HACCP certificate. Like they helped me they paid for it basically. And they promoted me to HACCP coordinator position. Because when I will that little moment helped me change so much. And then when I was within the industry, Karen Hanna, as I mentioned, my QA director, she helped me in a lot of how to write a good SOP, what is the how to write a HACCP plan, what are the things you have to see, what are the things you have to see when you go on the floor. So that mentorship helped me. Then when I wanted to work in CFI, there were a lot of CFI inspectors who used to come visit our facility. And I was very, very close to them because I'm a person who would stand and talk with anyone. So I would just connect with them and ask them how did they enter CFI, what qualifications you need, and is it worth it to go in CFI? What do you say? Like all of those questions. That is it private better or CFI better, right?
Mm-hmm.
I asked them, and then I got a little bit of mentorship from there too. Why should I join CFI? And one of the inspectors mentioned maybe you should try in CFI. They're hiring right now. And at that I'm okay, I should apply. I should just see if I can get into it or not. And then I
Yeah.
applied CFI. Then I met my supervisor in CFI, Donovan Wright. I'm super grateful for him too. He helped me a lot because most of the people I was working with had experience of 25 years or 30 years. I was
Yep.
the youngest one there. So it took me a lot of time to get comfortable and work with them, because I'll be always like that, okay, maybe I don't know how to do it. They will tell me or they won't tell me. So, the situations get awkward at multiple times. So he has had mentored me a lot. And then slowly I'm still in connected with those people who wherever worked with, they still mentor me. And sometimes Karen Hanna that I'm talking about,
Yeah.
she even helped me negotiating my contracts with my employers in the
Oh
past.
my.
Call her, I'm like, this is the contract I've received and I don't think I'm happy with it. What can you suggest? So if I don't want that salary, can I ask for extra vacation? See, can I ask for extra insurance? So all those things, like food safety is one perspective of it, but as a human, there were so many other things that people had helped me. And that's why I wanted to give back to the community, because I met a lot of good people who have helped me in the past. And now I feel like if I have enough experience, if I have enough knowledge and I can help someone, I should, because I was lost too. And there are many students who need help. And when I started posting on LinkedIn, actually, it was never decided that I'm going to do this. I never decided this. But what
Oh.
happened was a lot of people, students would reach out to me, and you know what message they would type, Veronica? I still get those messages
Mm-hmm.
that we reach out to so many people on LinkedIn, but nobody replies to us. And I don't know what to do. I see you have grown in this industry. Can you please guide me how I can do it? And that would hit me that, okay, she's so confused right now. She needs my help. Then I would just, okay, I'm available tomorrow at 4:30. Are you? So this is how I started doing it. And then I started posting, okay, I'm taking 4 students or 6 students this month, and I will let's do one-on-one career consulting sessions and see if I can help you in any ways in deciding what you can do and how you can grow in your career. I started with 4 or 5, but there were so many people, so I would end up doing, I think, 25 to 30
Oh
sessions
my
in a month.
gosh. How do
And
you?
I was doing it after my work. Like I'm home around 4 o'clock. So around after four, I will take calls 4:30 and 5 o'clock. So I would take 2 calls, 30 minutes each in one day. And I'm still doing it. So in the past 18 months, I think I've done over 130
Oh my
sessions.
gosh.
And it's amazing. And I have learned a lot from them too. You when you meet those, you feel like it's your experience, that you were there too, and you feel more grounded and humbled for what you have done and what you have in life. And then you feel like, okay, I may not have what I want, but what I have I should be grateful for those things too.
Wow.
So this was this is how I'm trying to help as much as I can. And I tell a lot of people now about food grads community too. I didn't know in 2016 or 17 or 18 about you guys, but when I came to know, whenever I talk with someone, I'm like, you should listen to that podcast, food community. Why not? Like they're sharing so much information. You should listen to that.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that shout out. But I love hearing about your story and how you've had different mentors throughout your time, and you don't have to have one mentor that's for every aspect of your career. You could have one, maybe for the more general purposes in life. I've had really amazing mentorships with it started off as a mentorship where it was a very formal 6 weeks. We talk about A, B, and C. I'm going to do this. Let's see, check on it, in 2 weeks, and we'll recap. But now we've just become friends and we just like to talk about life. And to me, that's just been as valuable as maybe talking about the technical aspects.
That's true. You build such beautiful, meaningful relationships over the time that people just want to just check on you. How you're doing? How's your health?
Yeah.
How's your life? Are you planning to have babies? All of
Yeah.
those questions, you're still in touch with those people. It's just beautiful.
It is. And for the mentorship that you provide, I like that you pointed out that you also get value out of it, because that was always something I was worried about when I was doing mentorship. So to say with someone, I was like, well, I don't want to waste their time. Like, I know they're here to help me, but I don't really want to waste their time either. Like, I'm appreciative of the time, but I hope that they're getting something out of this. So it's nice to hear that, mentors too can also get something out of the relationship.
Yeah, you do. You feel what I felt is okay. I was at that place too once, and what I have right now, because you always complain. Human beings are like that, right?
Yes.
You're never satisfied. You have three clients in a month. Now I'm like, why do I have three? I would should have four or five. I have extra time. So you're never satisfied. But when you connect with those people who are starting their career, and then okay, I was once there too, and I should be grateful for what I have and stop complaining sometimes. So it's beautiful, and what they are doing, what there are different things that colleges are doing nowadays. What they were doing back then is something I learned from them too, right? With like Centennial College, they are doing this BIOS, where they call people and talk with them, interview them. I was part of that too. So it is those things, those small things that were not there are now there. I'm learning that too. Okay, there are new things that people are doing, and when I connect with someone else, I just pass on that information that okay, they are doing that. Maybe you can try and do this too.
Mhm. Thanks for reminding me about that. I'm going to include that in the show notes because they
Yeah.
have them accessed on YouTube. So anyone can really just watch them. So you don't have to go to Centennial College. And there's some really, really good questions for a lot of individuals. So yeah. And then the other thing as well I wanted to ask with your side of the mentorship, just to bring it back to the students, is there anything that you notice as you've spoken to a lot of students, is there anything that you're noticed that maybe that they're lacking particularly that you wish that you would like to communicate right here to everyone that they should think about a little bit more?
I want to mention actually self awareness. So this is something I think when I was in college, nobody talks about it. What you want to do, what do you like to do? If you're in a food safety industry, there are many options for anyone to grow. They can go in regulatory affairs, you can go in packaging and labeling compliance, you can go into CFI, quality assurance, labs. There are so many options, right, for you to grow. Or you want to study further, you don't want to do anything, you want to take a subject, any major subject, and do a PhD. When I talk with students, they don't know what they want to do. Like they're confused sometimes. Okay, and I always ask them, what do you like? Like I was always sure I don't want to work in the lab. I want to work in the food facility. I knew at
Mm-hmm.
least this much when I started my career. So do you know? They're like, no, we will just take the opportunity, whatever we get. We'll just do it. I just want job for now. So I understand when especially when you're an immigrant, you feel
Mm-hmm.
like a job because you have at the end everybody have to pay their bills. So they,
Yep.
but on a long run, if you're not satisfied and if you're not happy with what you are doing, then you will not grow in the industry. Then you will feel like, oh, okay, this is the thing I have to do, and I'm not happy with it. You're just doing to get paid. So self awareness is something that is very very important for students. I think when they're planning their goals, when they're planning what they want or where they see themselves in 5 years, do they want to do they want to go into auditing? Do they want to go in CFI and be an inspector, or they want to into consulting business, right? Or they want to take a good high paid corporate job as a QA director and be there and just do food safety plan and like review food safety plans,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is something I think when we are in college, options should be given to us at that time so that students can make mindful decisions about their careers, what they want to do, and have more. It's more about self-reflection and awareness. Okay, these are the options, and this is what I like, and this is definitely I don't want to do it. because this is not my thing. So this is something. Then regulations. I think when we come out from a college, we are always about we know food safety plan, but we don't know how to write an SOP. We don't know how to write a proper
Huh.
prerequisite program. Where to find the proper SFCR? What are SFCR regulations? Basically CFI regulations, right?
Yes.
Nobody can remember all the regulations. Of course, even me today, I don't remember all the regulations, but I know what are my resources, where I can go and find the information. So if I'm working in the industry, you're writing on your certificate on your resume that you're HACCP certified, and when you are going for an interview for a HACCP position and you don't know what is the requirement for HACCP as per CFI or as a GFSI, then most of the companies won't hire you. And this is, I have seen in
Huh.
my career where I have been part of the interviews where my manager would ask me, do you want to be the part of the interview? I would sit there, be a part of it, and listen to other people just to learn, just to
Yeah.
gain the experience, right? So I have done that. And people are like, okay, we have HACCP certificate, but we don't know how to do hazard analysis on CFI portal. We don't know how to find these SFCR regulations. What does this regulation say? So we want to grow in the industry, but we have to know the regulations part of it, which is very, very important. So regulations, and then I think I mentioned my first point was self-awareness, which is very, very important for students to understand that what they want to do. This is they're confused, and I think because either there are many options for some people that they know, or for some they don't know any option, and they just think, okay, we they're lost, like we don't know what to do.
Unfortunately, with school, there's so much of a coursework that you're just trying to keep up with your studies
Yeah,
that by the
yeah.
time you get to the weekend, you don't want to think about anything. You just want to take a break, or you have your next assignment, and then next semester starts, and then it's a lot. So taking time you almost have to schedule in self-awareness time and think about
That
it.
brings another point, actually, Veronica. Time management. They're studying. We have classes.
Yep.
Then they're doing their part-time jobs because they have to pay their bills. And then third, because they're thinking about, okay, what am I going to do after once I'm done? Once I will get my work visa, or once I'm done with my uh, course, what am I going to do after that? So that part is also like time management is very, very important. And then we, as you said, we want to go on the weekends, we just want to relax, go out, meet our friends, have pizza, sit on the beach. So time management is something very, very important. On this perspective, I want to share something that might help few people.
Mhm.
So because the food networking events that I was talking about, they're very expensive to enter.
Yep.
Like they are not, some are very, very cheap. You can easily go like $10, $20, but some are like really, really expensive. So if there are students who want to go, I would suggest what I used to do. I would go online on their portal and apply for volunteer positions. So I would be a volunteer in that particular event. I'm a volunteer. I have entered now free of cost. I am not paying anything. And I work there 3 hours, 4 hours as a volunteer. Then I have a free access to whole networking event. Now I can go anywhere in the event. And I would take my business card with me, and I would go on the each stand and talk with people about it. So this is how I have done. But if you're a student, you can go on networking events, do the volunteer part, and then you can hand out your resume. You don't know who is hiring there. And if you're meeting someone, they are like, okay, this person is taking so much initiative to come here, like travel, volunteered, and like handing out resume. It means this person has those quality to grow. They want to grow, right? They want to do something and they want to make a difference in the food safety. So let them give a chance,
Mhm.
because there
Yeah.
are so many people apply online jobs. Nobody knows you unless you meet someone face to face, and that's how they get to know you more than just a piece of paper that's just resume and your qualifications,
Mhm.
which is everybody does. Of course, we still have to do that.
Yeah.
If there is an opportunity, anybody gets to go on the events, or anything that colleges are doing, anything they can go and hand out their resume in person to people, they should do it.
That's really good. You have given so many good nuggets of advice with that little bit from how to hand out your resume, because at least if you give it to them, gives them the opportunity to even look at it for 10 seconds, but you don't even know if that's ever going to happen if you apply in law with the ATS systems. And
Correct.
then as well, the networking, I understand there are some events that are cheap. I also, sorry, some are cheap, some are very expensive. And I look at it and I'm like, this is way too much.
Yeah, $700, $800. There are food safety summits too, right? They're so
Yes.
expensive, 2250, 3000. I'm like, okay, if I can be volunteer, I'll do that. I'll work for 3, 4 hours. And this is how I have done it, to be very
Mm-hmm.
honest with you. And it's working for me as of like now. So I think
Yeah.
it can help other people.
And the
Yeah.
volunteering aspect's also good as well, because then you can put it on your resume and then you have volunteered at, if you can write 3 events and you can add more keywords of food safety and all that, that's also another really good opportunity. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
Wow. We're already at the end of the call. I feel like there was way more that I wanted to ask you and such because there's so
Sorry, I
many.
talk a lot.
No, I think that's great because what I love is that you're able to give tangible, straight up advice that is here's every level from communication to a general sense to the more specific questions, because those are the things that people do wonder about with the certifications that you said. And you have also dispelled for me that I didn't realize that the programs weren't teaching as in depth about regulation searching than I really had thought it would.
Yeah. So in my diploma in advanced biotech, it was not that of about the regulations. It was more about food safety, like the hazards, microbiology, and all of that. But maybe there are other diplomas like food science. I have heard one of the students from Lambton College. She told me that in food science now they are getting HACCP certificates too at the end. So
Okay.
their project is basically build a HACCP plan on this particular project, and then you will get the HACCP certificate. So I think it also depends on diploma to like course to course,
Mm-hmm.
not just one specific course. But this is my personal experience. When I was there, I was more of a just more about like food safety, like the basic part of it, and not what is actually helping is in Canada. Like what does Canada requires?
So before I let you go, because again, we are at the end of the episode, I'm going to leave you with two questions. So the first one, I know we've touched upon a lot of different things, but if we rounded it out, what advice would you give to students that are looking to go into the field of food safety?
I want to say that number one, spend on quality education. It's very, very important. If you're getting any certifications and you're paying from your own pocket, even if you're getting it through industry, your company is paying for you, make sure you spend on quality education. There are a lot of companies, different companies who sell like HACCP, SKF, BRC certificates, right? Make sure you study about that company and about the instructor who is actually teaching that course to it's valuable for you. I meet a lot of students who are like, okay, this is very expensive course. I don't want to take this certification, but they are okay to spend that type of money on entertainment, but not on their education. So this is something I want to mention that please to all the students prioritize your education in this industry. It's very, very important to stay up to date. And second thing is regulations. Whenever you're free, go into CFI website. They have a lot of information. You can actually go search SFCR, SFCA, Canadian Packaging and Labeling Compliance. There is a big gap. There are not many companies who are not many people who are doing Canadian packaging and labeling compliance right now in Canada. I am simply struggling with as a business. But if there are people who are interested in that, they should do study Canadian packaging and labeling compliance, and they can choose that as a career too and make a good business out of it. Everybody needs packaging, everybody needs compliance, right? So yeah, this is what I wanted to say. And the third part is mentorship. It's very, very important. Connect with people who are your professors, alumni. If you're working in industry already, stay connected with the your corporate people. You will always find one person in the facility who is happy to help and give you information and guide you. And another thing is, if you can go on networking events, as I mentioned earlier, please go stay up to date with LinkedIn, because everybody's on LinkedIn. They're talking about food businesses, entrepreneurship. Even there are so many HACCP, GMP, food safety discussion groups on LinkedIn that people can join at free, and they can share their opinions on food safety. And this helps students too, because there are a lot of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, food businesses who post jobs just on LinkedIn. they're small business, they don't want to pay to Indeed and other companies, so they prefer to post it on LinkedIn. So you can, if you join these groups, you can actually apply for the jobs. So look at around for all the options, stay connected with people, and I think it's possible to grow if you will do all of these things.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to leave it there, Tanya. And the last question I'm going to ask is, where can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn and on LinkedIn, so I we can share my LinkedIn on
Okay.
the notes and below, and you can find me also on Instagram, or you can email me at Tanya. That's Tania at Assured Food Safety. Sorry, it's Tania at ASSUREDFOODSAFETY.ca. Tanya at assuredfoodsafety.ca. So my LinkedIn is best to reach out to me, and I'm always checking my emails too. So
Amazing. Well, I'll make sure to link it in the show notes so it's a little easier than verbally listening to this over on the show. But once again, thank you so much, Tanya, for coming on the show and sharing your wealth of knowledge and the experiences that you've had. You've shared a lot with me that I've also learned. I didn't realize a lot of these things. And honestly, I wish that you were there when I was in school because this might have changed how I thought about things. So thanks for sharing and coming on the show.
You're welcome. And thank you so much again for giving me this opportunity. I think what you are doing is amazing, and there are a lot of people who need help, and together we can help a lot of people, definitely.
If you want to learn more about Tanya or learn more about the world of food safety, then check out the description below or check out Tanya on LinkedIn. Make sure that you do follow her on LinkedIn because she is sharing a lot of good information related to food safety and personal development. Once again, thank you, Tanya, for being on the show. Thank you to the Canadian Food Innovation Network for sponsoring this video. If you are interested in pursuing a career in food innovation, then check out the description below to learn more about Stephen's Food Innovator Career Hub and how you can connect with Canada's fastest growing food tech companies. Once again, thank you to Tanya for being on the show. Thank you to my wonderful team over at Food Grads for helping to make this show possible. And thank you everyone so much for listening, and I will see you next time.